covering the High Plains with news, weather, and information. From TV 23 Studios in Sublette, this is High Plains Today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of High Plains Today. Joining me today is Nancy Renner. She is the bereavement coordinator for Hospice of the Prairie and Prairie Home Health. And we're going to talk a lot about bereavement, grief, counseling, and all those types of things on this show today, because especially during the holidays, people kind of try and slough grief off to the side. Am I right?
Sometimes that does happen. That does happen.
Because we were talking earlier, and we were talking about some of the services that Hospice of the Prairie and Prairie Home Health offers, and you have a lot of different types of grief
support
solution support. Yeah. Yeah.
We do. Our grief support services range from individual grief counseling for adults, children, and teens to folks can receive mailings from us. They can receive phone calls from us. We have grief support groups. We have social gatherings like our bereavement luncheon. We also have remembrance services twice a year where folks can come and submit the name of their loved one. We have a candle service, and they can just have that time to remember folks. We just had our holiday remembrance service last week, and it was the holidays certainly are often a hard time for people, and so that was one of the things we offered to help folks. Okay,
so let me ask you that now, because you have several different types of counseling or groups that you offer. I mean, you offer for adults, you have one for children, 6 to 12, and for teens from 13 to 18. So of that bunch, I'm going to ask you now, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I don't mean to, but
okay, that's all right.
Which one of those groups, I mean, I'm guessing you treat all three differently because I'm sure they're a whole different deal, but which one of those groups is probably the hardest to deal with when it comes to an age group dealing with grief? Or maybe there's not, I don't know.
Well, I would say perhaps the teen group. Children tend to be, the kids below the age of 13, they tend to say it like it is. You know, kids just talk, and they don't really have that filter.
I was going to say, they are unfiltered, aren't they?
Exactly, and that's a good thing. When it comes to grief, that's a good thing. That helps them. Adults have learned to, we have our filter, but we've learned, you know, to be a little more comfortable with our feelings. Teens have a harder time. They oftentimes kind of squelch their emotions. They tend to not talk as easily. Of course, we know if we have a teenager in the home, we know that. They kind of look at us and don't really say much. So those teen groups are often challenging. But I would say that, you know, they all have their challenges.
All right, so do you think the teen dealing with them is more of a societal thing that we've put this pressure on them and peer pressure on them that, you know, you can't be like this?
Well, I
know that's starting to change, but
I think part of it is where they are developmentally too. They are figuring out who they are, and they are trying to figure out, you know, how do I want to deal with this grief? They may not have ever experienced grief before, and they don't know how. And that's part of what the group is to do for them, to help them understand it, help them to kind of put a name to it, and to know that probably a lot of what they're feeling is normal, and probably most people in that group are feeling the same thing.
Okay, so, and we talked earlier the other day that, you know, children, the 6 to 12, you approach them differently because, you know, they're really not at the stage of like a teen trying to figure out who they are, where they're going, what am I going to do. Well, like we said, they're unfiltered.
Absolutely.
But you treat them a different way than you say the youth and the adults, correct?
Right. For our children's group, we know that they are best when they're at play, and they are more comfortable that way. And so we have, for our kids group, we actually have a play that we do, and it's called The Journey to the Land of Grief. And they do We do activities, we do craft projects, we do drawing and coloring, just lots of different kinds of activities to teach. And in the meantime, we teach them about grief and help them express themselves with their
All right.
loss.
So how is that? I want to be in that group.
I know, it's a lot of fun. It's a ball. It's really fun.
I mean, sometimes I wonder, maybe we should treat adults that way.
Absolutely.
So, okay, but you have two different styles that you do with the adults. I mean, you have one that's kind of a formal, sit down type of meeting, and then you have one that's a little more casual, right?
Well, we have a grief support group that meets twice a month on Thursday evenings, and it is more of a traditional group. So there's usually a topic that's introduced, something having to do with the loss, the grief process, and then folks can, it's kind of a starting point, then folks can just share about their loss. They can talk about maybe the challenging things that have come up and just share ideas as to how to get through those.
Okay.
We also have the bereavement luncheon, which is not a support group, it's a social group. Folks can come there and have lunch. Right now it's at the Dodge House in Dodge City. They can have lunch, they can visit with each other. They may or may not talk about their loss. They don't have to because it's a social group. And people, it's just a way to connect. I think that's one of the most important things I've learned about grief is that the importance of connecting with someone else. So they can come to this group or this luncheon and connect with people.
Okay. I lunch and coloring with the kids, I could do either one of those.
Absolutely.
All right, Nancy, stay right there. When we come back, I want to get more into what takes place. How do you get this started, especially with the holidays coming up? Because you told me some stuff about the holidays that I went, whoa, really? Okay, so stay right there. Nancy and I will be back right after this.
You're watching High Plains Today on TV 23 with host Chris Jewell. TV 23's internet service and 4G live streaming provided by United Wireless. Coverage you deserve. Service you expect. United Wireless.
Hi, Chris Jewell, host of High Plains Today, a 30-minute news and information program that airs weekdays at noon right here on TV 23. We talk about news, we talk about sports, we talk about weather, we're even going to talk entertainment. We'll have live guests right here on set with me. So, every day at noon, tune in, High Plains Today. We'll see you then.
Weekdays here on TV 23.
And welcome back to this special edition of High Plains Today. I am joined today, Nancy Renner. She is the bereavement coordinator for Hospice of the Prairie, Prairie Home Health. We're talking about grief support groups, how people deal with grief. Everybody's different, right?
That's correct.
Everybody is unique. There's not one special way that you have to grieve or whatever.
Absolutely. That's
Okay,
correct.
but especially now with the holidays coming up, we've been through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and you've got New Year's, and these are always big times, especially for family.
Right.
And if somebody has lost a loved one or is feeling whatever, and they called you, I mean, how does this whole thing start? What takes place?
Well, usually folks will just give us a call, and usually there's, maybe something that's especially difficult for them. Maybe they're not sleeping at night, or maybe they have a child who is having to leave class because she's sad during the day. There's usually something, and they'll just give us a call, and I can visit with them over the phone or in person. They could come to the office, and we can just visit about their grief. I usually will ask questions about it and just, get information about the loss and the relationship that they had, and what other losses they've had and how they've dealt with those and how they got through those kinds of losses. Just kind of getting to know them is really what we do. And then kind of helping with problem solving sometimes too. What I have learned about grief is that grief is a natural process, and it's something that we all go through. And if we give our grief attention, so to speak, usually grief goes okay, but sometimes for whatever reason that grief doesn't get attention. And usually it's us. Usually we decide that we're not going to talk about it, we're not going to allow those feelings to come, and we kind of squelch it down, and that's where we usually have problems.
Now, is that something that happens a lot during, especially, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and those, that stretch of holidays? Do a lot of people try and squelch it and keep it inside and say, nope, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm not going to let it ruin this holiday?
Yes, I think that is pretty common, and I think that is why there is so much anxiety about the holidays coming. You know, the holidays are difficult for a lot of reasons when you've lost a loved one. For one thing, the holidays start so early. The season starts 2 months before.
I know, it seems like Christmas starts at Labor Day now, doesn't it?
It does. And so you have all this time to, you walk in stores and there's music playing and people are, there's things on TV, and it's a long time to have to deal with the pressures of the holiday. Plus, family members may have different ideas or different needs during the holiday time. They have different grief needs. And so even if you have, 4 siblings in the same family, each one of them may be at a different place with their grief, may want to do different things for the holidays. Here they're all supposed to come together as a family, but each one of them has different needs. So it just makes it very complicated for a lot of folks. And, the holidays are about family. And when there is a loved one missing, it just accentuates that loss for a lot of folks.
Okay, but we talk about the holidays, and one thing, sometimes people will go, you know what, we don't have this person, or this person is not going to be with us this year. It's our first Christmas without dad or mom or a brother or sister, and you just go, that's it. We're not going to do Christmas this year.
There are those folks who do that. And while it is a choice, we all get to choose how we do Christmas, right? Especially when you're grieving. You get to choose how you do it because it's your own grief. What I would suggest, rather than going to that extreme and not having the holidays, or going to the other extreme where folks, they bust right through the holidays pretending that nothing bad has happened, and so we are all going to put on our smiley faces and get through the holidays.
Those are two those are two extremes.
Right. What I would suggest is perhaps something in the middle, where you talk as a family, communicate what you feel like your needs are, and maybe pick and choose certain things from the holiday that you still want to do. And maybe not do some of those things that may be especially painful to you. For example, if maybe you've lost your father and he used to play an important part in playing Santa Claus, passing out presents under the tree. Maybe do something different. Maybe have some sort of change to help get through that part without it being so painful. But I also suggest that instead of going through the holiday and pretending like nothing bad has happened, that you integrate or include maybe the memory of your loved one in the holidays. So, for example, light a candle for that person, or have a sharing time. Maybe someone came up with an idea the other day about hanging a stocking for that person, and everyone brings an item to put in the stocking that reminds them of that person.
That's a good idea. I like that idea. All right, so you're segueing for me right into, because we want to talk about a celebration of life and stuff, okay? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to kind of hit on that, okay?
Very good.
All right.
Very good.
And Nancy and I will be back right after this. Hi, I'm Chris Jewell, host of High Plains Today, a 30-minute news and information program that airs at noon weekdays right here on TV 23. Hey, do you think you have an idea for something that would make a great segment? Somebody that would make a great interview? What about a community event that needs highlighting? Let us know here at the station. Email us news@kdgltv.com.
This is the place.
And welcome back. I am joined in studio on this special edition by Nancy Renner. She is the bereavement coordinator for Hospice of the Prairie, Prairie Home Health. And we've been talking about holiday grief and some ways that there's no right or wrong way to deal with the loss of a loved one, et cetera, right?
That's correct.
Everybody is unique. But, before we start talking about celebration of life and the holidays, let me ask you, people between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's start to ramp up that, man, this is the first year that mom or dad or brother or sister, grandpa is not going to be here. They are not going to be sitting in that chair or doing this thing.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of anxiety build up there for that, isn't there?
There is a lot of anxiety. And what I think might comfort some folks to know is that oftentimes the day of that celebration is not as difficult as the anticipation of the day of that celebration. That's what people tell me. And we kind of build it up in our minds, and we think about how were we going to get through it. And oftentimes people tell me, you know what, it was another day. It was no harder than any other day that I've gone through. So I think that's important to keep in mind, to keep things in perspective. That oftentimes it's the anticipation is harder than the actual day.
So inside, you're just reeling and going, oh, how am I going to deal with this? That person's not going to be there. They're not going to be, like you said, Dad's not going to be here handing out to presidents, et cetera, those types of things, or carving the turkey, or whatever the job was. And then they get to the day, but things just kind of smoothly move on.
Sometimes they do. Well, I think they are surprised at the end of the day that they got through it. And I think that's a good goal to have, is just to be able to get through it. I don't think we should be thinking that we're going to make it that special day like it always has been. It's going to be different.
Well, yeah, but it's still going to be special.
It could be special.
It's still going to be a special day.
Special.
All right. So, and you told me an interesting deal. Now, let's talk about, okay, you get through the first year, and, everybody, you have a very large support group of friends and family that are there for you, helping you, through the process of grieving, and grandpa or grandma or whoever is not there.
Right.
But you said usually the second or maybe third year is tougher, or could be tougher.
I don't know if it's tougher, but I think we put so much emphasis on the first year. And that first year, folks are considered a bereaved. So people support them, they call them, they say, I'm thinking of you, they send cards. They're given special treatment, which they should be. But what happens often is the second year, sometimes that falls away. The support falls away. And so the second year, people find that it can be more difficult. Not always, but sometimes.
You're not getting all the calls that you got, or the cards.
Right.
And those
or
types
just
of
the
things.
statements that people make to you, I'm thinking of you, call me if you need anything. Those kinds of things sometimes fall away because they're not considered, the world, the first year they're bereaved and then the second year they're not. Well, we know that grief lasts, it's really a lifetime process. And so that second year, sometimes there's such a difference in the support that is offered that it can be pretty difficult to get through.
So life still has to go on.
Right.
Okay, let's talk a little bit back about, since the holidays are coming up and the grieving process, let's talk a little bit about celebration of life.
I mentioned earlier that sometimes we encourage folks to incorporate their loved one's memory in the holiday season, rather than just go through it and pretend like nothing has happened. Why don't we incorporate their memory into the holidays, bring them with us, so to speak. And one of the things that Hospice of the Prairie offers is our Celebration of Life Christmas tree. And this is a Christmas tree that is currently up at the Village Square Mall. And it has, what you can do is you can purchase a light in honor of someone living or in memory of someone who has died. And that light, that name will appear next to the light on the tree. And then there's also a book that is with the tree that has your name as the donor and then your loved one's name. So it's kind of a neat opportunity to just honor that person or acknowledge that person during the holidays.
And still at home, you can do those things too, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, you
Absolutely.
can, nothing says you can light a candle for a person there. You can still set a place for the person if you feel, right?
Sure, you
Those
can
types
do,
of things.
I think that's the thing that I'd like people to come away with is this is their grief. They get to do it how they want to and how they need to. And the idea is that you come together as a family and communicate with each other what your needs are, what you would like to see happen, and come together and talk as a family and try to work out some compromises.
Because everybody is unique. There's no set way
Right.
to grieve,
That's
correct?
correct.
And especially with the holidays coming up. And the one thing that, I mean, they can get a hold of you or any of the other people at Hospice of the Prairie, Prairie Home Health.
That's
they can
correct.
call you at 620, and we had the number up there earlier, didn't we, Brent? 227-7209.
That's
I wrote
it.
it down, people. All right. And the other thing is, though, this is very important. You don't have to have someone in hospice to use these services, and they don't cost you anything.
That's correct.
All you got to do is call. All you got to do is if you're having a problem or whatever, just reach out, right?
That's
it's that
correct.
simple. They're not going to hold you to anything. They're not going to come in and say, you must do this.
Right. And sometimes for folks, maybe you just want to receive our newsletter. Maybe you just want to receive, we have some really neat mailings that we can send out. Maybe you just would think that might be something you want. You don't have to necessarily have an issue or a problem to call us. Give us a call and we would be glad to provide
Maybe they
whatever.
just want to have lunch.
Maybe they do. Come to the luncheon.
Or if you're like me, you want to go in with the kids in color. I would do, that's what I would do. I would have
It's pretty
lunch
fun.
and color.
It's pretty fun.
Nancy, thanks. This has been very informative,
Thank you.
especially during the holidays. I mean, this is going to be a tough time for some people. So I think it's very important that they know that there's somebody out there that's willing to listen and help.
Absolutely.
All right,
We're
Nancy
here to help.
Renner,
Thank
she
you.
is the coordinator, bereavement coordinator, Hospice of the Prairie, Prairie Home Health. Thanks for coming by today.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. And thanks for tuning in to this special edition of High Plains Today. We'll see you next time.
Keep up to date with the latest information from TV 23 on our Facebook page, KDGL TV.